Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pipeline Summit. Today, we're talking all things marketing, pipeline, demand generation, and we're really lucky to have Ashley Kramer here with us today. Ashley Kramer joins us from Gitlab. She is the Chief Marketing and Strategy Officer, and she's been so kind as to spend some time with us today. Ashley, given this audience are marketers, can you talk a little bit about Gitlab? Obviously, if you're a developer, everybody knows Gitlab, but marketers might need a little bit of an introduction. So tell us a little bit about Gitlab.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on today. So basically, in a nutshell, Gitlab has a software platform. We call it a DevSecOps software platform that companies across the world use to deliver their software in a secure and fast way. And so we provide the software that people use to build their software. And so it's a pretty cool concept because as a marketer, we also use GitLab to build GitLab. And so it's a really big opportunity to tell that story to the world, help people figure out how to transform their DevSecOps practices. And that's a little bit about GitLab.
Thank you. And developer security operations. So you are selling into the DevSecOps persona. It's appropriate they're with us today because the title of this session is When Engineering and Marketing Collide. You're perfect for this session, given your journey. Because usually when you see marketing colliding with something, it's typically sales. But given the rise of artificial intelligence and everything we're talking about today, you're perfect, given that you started your career working at NASA, quite literally, and you've moved throughout engineering organizations, and now you're the CMO and Chief Strategy Officer at Gitlab. So tell us a little bit about what that journey's been like.
Yeah, it was interesting. I was a computer science major, and as you mentioned, work at NASA, Oracle, some other companies in the capacity of a software developer. And it turned out there were two problems with that. One, I wasn't very good at it, and two, I wasn't passionate about it. And I think that's okay because it gave me this base level knowledge of what it takes to develop software. And so I made some pivots throughout the years into product, and then into product and marketing, product and engineering as far as leadership capacity. And when I landed at Gitlab, it was kind of perfect because what I market and sell to our customers is something that would have removed that pain that I experienced as a developer. So I have that empathy for who we're selling to and the challenges. And so it was sort of a perfect circle for me to go through that journey, become the CMO of a company that sells to this audience. And the last piece I'll say, which is super cool, is I bought Gitlab when I was at a company called Alteryx. I was running product and a portion of engineering at the time. We were having issues with quality in our software, other things. And we brought Gitlab in. They're still a Gitlab publicly referenceable company today. And so I've been a buyer too, which is kind of a cool part to the story.
Very cool. Very cool. So when you think about, GitLab's obviously been leveraging AI and machine learning, and you've been building AI into your workflows and your product for a long time. I'm somewhat familiar with your product. And by the way, thank you so much for being a customer as well.
Absolutely.
When you think about this sort of rapid, what I like to call sort of more accessible AI, generative, it's funny to think that it was only November 30th, 2022 is when OpenAI released or GA'd ChatGPT, which is amazing. So it's not that long ago, but it seems to have been the hottest topic on the planet. We talk about it as a platform shift, right? I mean, you and I have both been working in this industry long enough to have experienced platform shifts, right? From on-premise to cloud and mobile and social and, all these platform shifts. This one is extraordinary. Can you talk a little bit about how you think about what this is going to mean to businesses and how they're going to start to adopt some of these rapidly emerging technologies?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways to look at it. On the first hand, everybody right now seems to be, when it comes to generative AI, obsessed about two things in particular. You mentioned one, ChatGPT. I'm just going to go type something and magically exactly what I want's going to appear, which doesn't always happen. And the second piece is something's going to help me write my code for me. And that one's specific to the GitLab use case. And so we have competitors, a big competitor in the market that came out with that one, a really flashy way to, hey, we're going to make developers more successful because we're going to help them write code. And so that's the first piece in where you have to start sort of peeling back and saying, but is that how software is delivered? Is it just about writing the code? Because our perception at GitLab is it's way more. We talked about being a DevSecOps platform. You have to plan. The product managers have to plan what's going to happen. Developers have to write it. They have to test it. They have to integrate security. You have to get it to market. And so while there's a lot of hype and buzz around these certain features or capability, we are grateful that we've been a platform since we were founded in 2011. We, have one end-to-end workflow that can make these professionals really successful. And so we want to integrate AI throughout, which means we might not be first to market with some of these capabilities like code completion, but we want to be the most secure fast follower, and we want to make the entire process, engineers successful across the entire process, not just allow them to produce a ton of code faster, because if it's not secure, it's not at quality, it's not merging with other code, it's just going to sit there stale. So that's the first piece. The second piece is when you're typing things into ChatGPT, we've seen the articles. Are you sure you know where your confidential information, if it is going? Is it being used to train other models? When you're using some kind of code completion, are they going to take the code that you're putting in and the refactored output and use it for maybe a model that your competitor might go leverage? And so that's the second piece. Is we spend a lot of time at GitLab talking about the large language models, the LLMs, and can we sell to highly regulated, very very big enterprises that this isn't an option to leak their IP. And so the second piece is, once we break through the hype, what is happening with your data? You can put this in your personal life too. You can put this in pipeline generation. Like, do you deeply understand if you're sharing any of this in the world, and if that's okay?
Yeah, you make a lot of really good points. You're talking about the reality of leveraging artificial intelligence in the enterprise, really. You're thinking about things like governance. You're thinking about privacy, data security, transparency. These are all like things that you got to have to leverage this in the enterprise, right?
That's right.
I also completely agree that the infrastructure between whatever sort of corpus of data you have in those workflows and these large language models, like that's where you're building kind of defensible AI. That's where you're building something very unique. We share the same sentiment, and we're learning here as well. And we're learning there's a lot to do. It's not as easy as making an API call to OpenAI. So as you think about this world for marketers, right? I mean, there's a lot of very clear use cases for developers. They've been using this for a while, right? But as it relates to marketers and some of the capabilities that this unleashes, like, what are the things that immediately come to mind for you?
I think of all of the things that a marketer, no matter what role you have in marketing, all of the things you wake up and you think, I have to go do this today, right? The mundane, I think about all of the things that you can automate, because, when this all started coming out, I got the question all the time, is this going to replace my job, particularly in certain roles? And my answer is no, it's going to make you a lot more effective in your job, because you're going to automate all of those things that you don't like to do. And then you're going to actually use your brain for what it's there for, which is the creative side, the thing that AI can't, cut through, the personal interactions, the whatever it is, depending on your role. You'll be able to spend more time on that and differentiate that way when it comes to your role in marketing.
Agree. And that's, a lot of people have sort of used this concept of a co-pilot, whether you're coding, whether you're writing some content, whether you're generating imagery or graphic design. A co-pilot I think it's really a good term. It's also a great way to ease into AI because it's human in the loop. And it's a great way to start really testing, because LLMs, as powerful as they are, they make shit up.
They do.
That happens. We all know this. Hallucinations are pretty commonplace. And the first sort of realization I had around, you touched on something I think pretty important, which is like, is AI going to come for all of our jobs, right? And, my first experience with Midjourney, which I'm a junkie, I love it. Stable Diffusion and Midjourney, you can usually find me bopping around in there. You very quickly realize that somebody who has a firm grasp on a lot of design concepts is going to be able to do a lot more with this tool. It's not about, I think everything's going to have a natural language interface. Apps and data, you're going to use a natural language interface to communicate with it. But the more you know about something, the more leverage you're going to get from it. So I do agree with the fact that it's going to do a lot of the work that you roll your eyes at in the morning. That's ideal. But I also think that people who have a firm grasp or domain expertise around something are going to be able to be that much more effective with the technology. At Qualified, we've really challenged everybody in our business to think about how they're going to use it in their specific business function. And I've seen you're an advisor to a lot of companies. A lot of those are MarTech companies. What's the thing you say to them? When you talk to companies and marketing leaders, what's the thing that you drive home in terms of, if you're not thinking about this, you're making a huge mistake?
Well, for me, number one is, if you're not thinking about keeping people's data private, and you mentioned it and it's on my LinkedIn, so I'll say it, but I'm an advisor for Jasper AI, which is, the content side of the house. And I just went to their company kickoff and did a fireside chat, and we're looking at using that at Gitlab, but I won't even let my team touch it until we have the legal, we understand what's happening, what models are being leveraged, because particularly as a public company, that's a giant risk if anything that we're putting in is going to be shared. And so for me, that's the number one thing. I'm on a board of a company too. It's not MarTech, but same thing. They were using one of our competitive products. And I said, have you read the terms on that? Are you sure you understand what's happening? That's the first thing. The second thing is, I worry when new hype comes out, it's AI right now, it's going to be tool here, tool here, tool here, tool here. Like, I want consistency. And I told the team there, and I'll encourage you all for this too, give me one place to go, whether I'm a CMO, whether I'm a day-to-day user of the product or platform that you're selling. Put the analytics in there, do everything in one place, and drive people to that. Don't be just another tool, because there's going to be 50 million of them by the time we get out of, this whole hype cycle. Be the one that everybody comes to, everybody can get the information they need from.
Makes perfect sense. You have a DevSecOps platform, so everything you're saying resonates with me. One of the things that we think about a lot, and we share your sentiment with regards to governance, data privacy, security, because I like to say that as it relates to AI, especially in the enterprise, we're at step 3 of a 10K, or 100 yards into a marathon, right? It's very new, it's nascent. Obviously it's exciting, obviously it's powerful, and obviously you're not going to, you can't afford not to invest here. I think people feel that. But at the same time, we see companies forming AI councils, and I think that's really smart. I think that they have a centralized place to sort of ask the right questions about, if we're going to onboard a vendor, you want to make sure that they're responsible in their AI development, in their practices, in their governance. This is something we talk about a lot here. Do you think that marketing teams, engineering teams probably have this top of mind, I think. How about marketing teams? Do you think marketing teams have the same rigor in terms of the process to adopt AI technologies into their business?
I think it's the responsibility of the company to ingrain that, for sure. And I will say, we did that from the very beginning at Gitlab. We had, the company message, we repeat it. We're not allowed to use certain things like ChatGPT on our work computers. Do I still think some people are? Probably. Do I think it's engineers? No. So do I think we need to continue repeating that message? Yes, because the fact of the matter is, you and I are probably more technical than some marketers out there. So like, when you start talking about LLM and hallucinations and IP being shared, I think it's harder sometimes for them to conceptualize what that means. And so it's continuing to repeat that message and continue to help them understand at the right level why this could be a risk. It translates into their personal life too, by the way. It drives me nuts when I see people on social filling out these like surveys and putting their picture in, and I'm like, oh, they're just capturing all of your data. This is why my parents are not allowed on certain social sites. They will participate in those.
Yeah, 100%. I think the onus does fall on the company to, when we sell products into companies, like we're very proactive at these are the questions you should be asking, and here are the answers to those questions. We really do feel like you need to lead, be privacy first. We think that's very important. And I think a lot of it is we've got a lot of Salesforce DNA in here. And at Salesforce, obviously, we really needed to convince everyone that your data was okay in the cloud. You didn't need to store it on premise. So privacy first is I think it's an important motion here. When you've got a pretty big team at Gitlab, and when you think about not only the entire company, but your entire marketing team, like what kind of process do you have for evaluating and introducing new tooling and new technologies across the various marketing teams you have at your company?
Yeah, I mean, I have a VP leading each functional area, and it is a large team because sales development, it's different in different companies. It does report under me in marketing, and they're the ones that actually discovered that. VP was the one that came to me and said, it's time to replace what we're using. We want to use qualified. And so we call them the directly responsible individual. The DRI who will be leveraging the tech the most is the one to go and seek out and strategically figure out where it fits. Then we have a marketing ops team who then takes it and figures out how's it going to fit into our stack. The boring stuff like licensing, we're still paying on this. What are we going to do about that? And then I have that person as the responsible individual right now of the privacy side and saying, okay, let's take 2 double clicks, go talk to legal, make sure that we understand if this is going to keep our information, whatever we're using for it, safe and secure. And so it's sort of functionally find what you need to, and I am pushing the AI thing right now. I think at GitLab, we're thinking a lot about AI in our platform. I don't know that we're thinking enough, at least in marketing, about AI to improve our business practices and our processes and those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And there, it's kind of interesting because you see both sides of the coin, right? You're building, shipping, selling, supporting products that are leveraging AI, and you're having those conversations. But at the same time, you're consuming new AI products as well. And you're obviously a perfect person for GitLab, given that you have a very strong technical foundation. You have a lot of experience as an end user of that product, literally. When you think about GitLab and how you're operating, do you think that the engineering team and the marketing team are thinking about AI in similar ways, or do you think they think about those things differently?
So what we did when the hype cycle started earlier this year, that's when it really started taking off, is we formed a cross-functional group that includes engineering, product managers, marketing, and a few people from the field. Like we have field CTOs that are in front of customers all day. They met every day for a while, and now we have the forums, like the Slack channels. And so I think the answer in this case is yes, not always. But when it came to AI, because this was such an important focus, we really fostered that interaction. We're asking the field to bring us back the clear feedback. Okay, you just demoed this, or the customer just tried this in beta. Did the messaging land for them? And is the product working? And are we messaging it the way that it should be working? And so in this case, yes, because of the way that we've done it. Not always, though, when it comes to engineers and marketing. We speak marketing, and they are deeply technical, and bridging that gap, critically important.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you next. Given that you've made this journey, you've made this transition, and knowing how much you had to learn along the way, how do you bridge those two worlds at GitLab?
In my case, because I have that background, I try to lead this by example. And a lot of the team that I've brought in have been at other technical companies, but I have a code word for them, which is not a code word at all, which is this is too much marketing speak. And so it's at Salesforce, it was probably great, honestly, because you were selling to go-to-market leaders, and that works. That's why they use the celebrities for all of their promotions and everything, but it doesn't work in DevSecOps. And so I personally try to lead, and then the team kind of follows the lead of like, this may be too much marketing speak. We also are not afraid to float something by our CISO or our CTO or our product leader and say, hey, does this land for you? Because you are the people we're selling to at other companies. And so we have that collaboration as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Ashley, I feel like I could talk to you about this all day. You have a fascinating journey. We're big fans, and we really appreciate you joining us today and sharing some of your insights. So thank you very much.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Enjoyed the conversation. Thanks.